name is Valduvino Goncalves, or Mr. G, or Mr. Goncalves, and I'm the Associate Director of the Guidance Department at New Mission High School. What is it like to be a successful guidance counselor? I think I think of success in the fruits of labor of my own students. And so, as you guys know, New Mission is a college preparatory school. And although my job is very multifaceted, when I think of success, I think of two major things. And usually it's primarily with the 12th grade class. I think of ensuring that every single student has a viable post-secondary plan. Essentially, that means that every single student who's graduating from the school has a solid plan after high school. And usually that solid plan is usually college. About 90% of our students usually enroll into college. Last year, 75% of those students enrolled into four-year colleges. 18% of those students enrolled into two-year colleges. So over 90% were enrolling into college. And 98% of our class actually graduated. So 2 students went to summer school and then finished over the summer, but in June, 98% graduated. So I think in thinking about success is making sure that students have college and career opportunities for after high school and are making gains towards high school graduation, because that's the initial first step to ensure that students can actually have a good quality life after high school. That's a good question. So my father was actually a guidance counselor. He was a guidance counselor at the Berg for 33 years. And I actually didn't grow up with my dad. So I think indirectly he had some sort of influence. So because of my passion for working with young people and my passion for education, I always thought I wanted to become a teacher, but there was never like a content area that I really enjoyed, right? I didn't want to teach math, I didn't want to teach history, but I still wanted to have some impact in education. And becoming a guidance counselor was my way of doing that, because although I'm not a teacher, I'm not an in-classroom teacher, I am very, very much an educator. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of content that I do get to still deliver, because there's a lot of information that I have to give to our students to ensure their ultimate success. I think my passion is rooted in my own history, right? I was a BPS kid, right? Went to BPS my whole life. I also grew up, because I didn't grow up with my dad, I grew up with my single mom. Although my father was successful, my mom struggled. I grew up poor, but it was like a masked poor. Like, I didn't really know I was poor, because I always had home to live in, I always had food to eat, but I didn't realize the struggle that my mom faced until I got older. I also am passionate about young people, because as a BPS kid myself, as someone who reads the newspaper, and I look at the data, right? There's a lot of people out there that do not have a lot of faith in BPS and don't believe that BPS kids can be successful. I mean, just recently, there was an article in the Boston Globe that followed the valedictorians from the class of 2005 to the class of 2007. And a lot of them, unfortunately, were not successful. And so the theme of the article was sort of blaming BPS. Why weren't these kids successful? And I think there's a lot more blame to go around. I think we can't just blame the school system. And so because I see myself in you all every day, I think that's where my passion comes from. And you know, I also sometimes get the opportunity to visit other public high schools in more rich communities. And sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm dumbfounded by the amount of resources that they have, the amount of courses that they offer. You guys think about our small school, we only offer so much, but we're still able to be a very successful school. So to kind of sum it up, I would say my passion is rooted in my own history, and I come in here and I'm literally fighting and dodging bullets every day, because I see myself in you all and want to help you all be successful, because I think I'm a success story from Boston Public Schools. Many things. My job is very multifaceted. So unlike a teacher's job, every day looks different. A teacher goes in and every day it's their same kind of 3 or 4 classes. Every day looks different for me. And so I enjoy the fact that it's multifaceted, for sure. But I think the thing I enjoy the most is being able to have impact. Being able to hear students say thank you. Being able to listen to students and listen to their stories and help them solve problems. Whether it's an academic problem or they're struggling with the teacher, whether it's a problem with a college that they're applying to, whether it's a problem at home that they can't figure out and they're dealing with other socio-emotional issues. I literally can see the impact that I'm having almost every day. And I just enjoy spending time with young people. I think it keeps me young. So again, the fact that it's very multifaceted and the fact that I get to actually see my impact almost on a daily basis when working with young people. Yeah, so toughest part, I give you an example today. Because it is so multifaceted, I think, so although, like I said earlier, I'm not a teacher, but I do plan, right? Like I'm planning for what kids I want to meet with, what to-do items I want to accomplish. And most days when I come in here, very few things come off my to-do list because I get pulled into many different meetings. Because I'm not a classroom teacher, a lot of things that are not directly related to instruction fall on my lap because we are a small school and I'm part of the administration here. So the part that's the hardest is trying to prioritize and figuring out, okay, I have 1,000,001 things to do. Which ones am I going to actually do today? But if I have 10 kids waiting outside my office with crises or dealing with various different things, how am I going to manage that? So I think managing the fact that it's multifaceted and managing things that weren't on my schedule, things that I didn't expect were coming, that's definitely the hardest part. I honestly think college is the way to go. I often talk to my juniors when I'm getting them ready to think about college, and I say, when you think about our world, most people in our world don't go to college, right? Because our world is massive. But in our small, inclusive school, most of our kids do go to college. And I do believe when you think about the history of our country, right? Students of color, our black and brown babies, when you think about their history and their ancestors, our people were not allowed to read. Our people weren't allowed education. Public education was not created for us. And so we are already kind of set up at a disadvantage, and so we have sort of many years to make up, right? And so the only way to do that is to get educated. And I think education does a lot. I think it does a lot for the mind in terms of learning, but it also does a lot for viability and being able to live in a place like Boston, right? Unfortunately, the most highest paying jobs involve some kind of higher level degree, higher than high school. And so I always love when students graduate high school, go on to college, and then they're able to come back and talk about their experiences. And I get to say, wow, like they've really learned a lot, right? Because sometimes I say high school can be a really toxic environment. So you must get out of high school and go do something else in a higher education setting. So to answer your question, I think it works wonders. I think students can find themselves, learn about themselves, but also learn about the world and find out how they want to leave impact. And I think our people desperately need that because our people were not allowed to do that for so long.